Okay, so for module summaries 3 and 4, we're just going to go over a basic overview of what they mean. And chapter 4 was biological beginnings, and then chapter 5 was about physical development. And some important key facts that I read in the chapters were and reviewed with the notes online. Gene, which is a basic unit of hereditary in a living cell. Genes are made up of DNA and contain a chromosome. And so basically, what our body's made of, what makes us us. Chromosome is 25,000 or so genes that exist in the human body and that are laid out in an orderly way on rod like structures, which are called chromosomes. That's the description of them. Each of these chromosomes are made up of DNA and other biological instructions. DNA, which is rise. I don't even know how to say that. Okay, so I'm going to go over the chapters 4 and 5, which are biological beginnings and physical development. And I'm just going over what were key components to me in the chapter. And to start off, in chapter 4, a gene is a basic unit of hereditary in a living cell. Genes are made up of DNA and contain a chromosome. And chromosomes are 25,000 or so genes that can exist in the human body and are laid out in an orderly way that have a rod like structure. And each of these chromosomes are made up of DNA and other biological instructions. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, that's the real word, and then it's shortened to say DNA, is a spiral staircase shaped molecule that guides the production of proteins needed by the body for growth and development. So it's our makeup of what someone is. And then the formation of reproductive cells. A gamete is a reproductive cell that in each human contains 23 chromosomes rather than 46 chromosomes present in other cells in the body. A male gamete sperm and a female gamete ovum join at the conception, which give it the 23. Meiosis is the process of cell division and reproduction by which gametes are formed. Zygote is a cell formed when a male sperm joins with a female ovum with reasonably healthy genes and nurturing conditions in the uterus, and it may develop into a fetus and obviously be born as a live infant. So it's creating life. Genetic basis of individual traits. Alleles are genes located at the same point on corresponding chromosomes and related to the same physical characteristics, so they're like the same. A dominant gene is a gene that overrides any competing instructions in an ally pair, and a recessive gene is a gene that influences growth and development primarily when the other gene in the ally pair is identical to it. So the recessive, they need another one in order to become a gene, and the dominant is so strong so it overpowers any gene, and that's the main gene. There are a lot of abnormalities that occur when a chromosome is missing, and there are cases like Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, Turner syndrome. Those are just a few. And basically, Down syndrome, they have all or part of an extra 21st chromosome, and they would have distinctively shaped eyes, protruding tongue, thick lips, flat nose, short neck. These are because they have that 21st chromosome. And then Klinefelter syndrome, only boys can have this syndrome, and they have one Y chromosome and two or more X chromosomes. And then sometimes that's not known until adolescence, actually. And then Turner syndrome is only for girls, and they have one X chromosome and they are missing the second sex chromosome. And then they have broad chest, webbed neck. So the Klinefelter is only for boys, and then Turner is only for girls. Canalization is tight genetic control of a particular aspect of development. Basic motor skills are highly canalized. Crawling, sitting, and walking occur usually without training or encouragement. Prenatal development, they're divided into three phases: zygote, embryo, and fetus. In the zygote, it's the conception to 2 weeks after. Embryo it extends from 2 weeks to 8 weeks after conception, and fetus lasts from week 9 until birth. And then mitosis is the process of cell duplication by which chromosomes are preserved in a human being or other biological organism can grow. Embryo is the developing offspring that is in the process of forming major body structures and organs. So the baby's finally growing, it's official, it's past the conception stage. And then the fetus is the developing offspring that is growing in size and weight and sensory abilities, brain structures, and organs needed to survival. So it's becoming fully grown and a human. So an infant, it's having like brain, it's growing in a brain and things like that. Teratogens are potential harmful substance that can cause damaging effects during prenatal development, and some examples of them are alcohol, nicotine, cocaine, heroin, organic mercury, rubella, herpes simplex, HIV, infections, and AIDS. And all of these are very harmful to the fetus when first developing and when it's fully however, in the 9 months of their pregnancy, because it can cause serious birth defects. And then on to chapter 5, some important parts in the physical development. The brain in its development has the neuron, which is the cell that transmits information to other cells and also called a nerve cell. The dendrite, which is the branch-like part of the neuron that receives information from other neurons. The axon is the arm-like part of the neuron that sends information to other neurons. The synapse is the junction between two neurons, and the glia cell is the cell in the brain that provides structural or functional support for, and in some cases, direction to one or more neurons. The astrocyte is the glia cell that regulates blood flow in the brain, brings nutrients to, and metabolizes chemical for neurons, and communicates with other similar cells and with neurons. Okay, so then you have the parts of the brain, which are the hindbrain, midbrain, forebrain, and the cortex. And the hindbrain is part of the brain controlling the basic psychological processes that sustain survival. The midbrain is a part of the brain that coordinates communication between the hindbrain and the forebrain, so it's obviously in between it, seeing mid. The forebrain is a part of the brain responsible for complex thinking, emotions, and motivation. And the cortex is the part of the forebrain that enables conscious thinking processes, including executive functions. And executive functions are purposeful and goal-directed intellectual processes. So what you're thinking, how you're going about it, what you're deciding to do, and they're made possible by higher brain structures. There's two sides of your brain, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And usually people that are right-handed have use the left hemisphere of their brain, and it controls the right side of their body. And this is largely responsible for reasoning and analysis. And then the right hemisphere, usually with people who are left-handed, and it's responsible for simultaneously processing and synthesis. And then there's developmental changes in the brain. Synaptic genesis is a process in brain development whereby many new synapses appear during the first few years of life. Synaptic pruning is a process in brain development whereby many previously formed synapses wither away, especially if they have not been used frequently. Myelination is the growth of fatty sheath around neurons that allow them to transmit messages quickly. The physical development of the body has gross motor skills, fine motor skills, and gross motor skills, large movements of the body that permit locomotion through and within movement. And then fine motor skills are small, precise movements of particular parts of the body, especially the hands. So gross motor is more like kicking a soccer ball, and then fine motor is holding a pencil and writing something correctly with holding your pencil correctly. And just to talk about the hind and midbrain and forebrain, the hindbrain controls the processes that sustain survival, including breathing, blood pressure, sleep, arousal, balance, and movement. And the midbrain is the connection, and it acts as a relay between the two, and it sends messages to the forebrain about priorities for attention. For example, hello, the alarm clock is ringing, so to make your body wake up. And then the forebrain produces complex thinking, emotions, forces motivation, so making you do things. And then about physical play, we have rough and tumble play, which is playful physical fighting, which is really common in early and middle childhood, and it's important for development of the children. And that is my module summaries. Those are some key points. Obviously, there was a lot that we went over with all the slides and everything like that, but these are the things I found most important. So thank you.